Charlie. I'm so excited to have you on the show today.
Well, thanks for having me, Sarah. Look forward to chatting.
Yeah. Well, as we hop into this conversation, the listeners know how much I love CB supplements. I mean, I literally talk about them every show. And so I want them to know like that's how you and I are connected is because of CB supplements.
Well, and we are most appreciative of your love for our product, and we appreciate you as much as you appreciate us. So uh, just know that the love is mutual.
Yeah. Well, that is fantastic. And I always like to tell people when they give CB supplements a try and that package arrives to open that up, there's always going to be a card in there that's handwritten. And that is fabulous. Like the customer service is top notch.
Well, it's something that we take very seriously, because I think that so many companies just suck at it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
And most companies, they just don't care. They just
Mhm.
all they care about is the transaction. Like, just give me your money. Here's a product. Buy. And we are so against that. Like, we're looking to form a relationship. I mean, heck, you're a paying customer of ours, and now we've got a relationship where we promote on your podcast, and I'm on your podcast. Like,
Yeah.
none of this would have happened
That's right.
if we didn't have customer service and value it. And we're looking to start relationships with people. And I think the fact that you and I are even talking is a testament to that.
Oh, 1,000%. Yes. I mean, and that goes, we had connections before CB supplements even arrived because your wife is from my hometown and everybody knows I grew up in a very small town. So we all know each other. But the continuation of that relationship and now for the rest of your customers is amazing. But like you didn't really set out to say, like, I'm going to own this company called CB supplements. That wasn't like your ultimate goal when you left high school.
No, not at all. Heck, when I left high school, I had the dream of playing some type of professional sport and getting paid to do it. And I was a football and a baseball player, two sport athlete, and I wanted to play both of them.
Yeah.
Because I knew I wasn't going to go to the NFL. Like, I'm 5'11", and I played middle linebacker at 200 pounds in high school.
Yeah.
But God, I love football. It's such a good game. I still love it. That's like one of my dreams, to be able to, like, and I'm using air quotes, like, retire and then just go coach high school football or something,
Oh
or
man.
just go volunteer at University of Florida or something, and just help with player development, just be around guys,
Mhm.
because it's just such a great sport. But I was better at baseball,
Oh wow.
and my
Okay.
future was in baseball. And until I was 22, and I'm sure we'll get to the
Yeah.
why that never happened. But
Yeah.
that's what I was thinking come out of high school. Like, just tell me where to go to college so I can keep playing.
Well, okay, so talk a little bit about that. Here you were a two sport athlete, and we talk about a little bit on the show is that like you don't have to be a multi sport athlete, but it really brings value to what you're learning because the team dynamics are so different for every sport. But so when you were kind of going through that process of saying, I want to play sports in college, were you solely set on I'm going to play at a Division I school?
Yes, and my recruiting process kind of changed that, and
Okay.
I'm happy to walk you
Yeah,
through that.
please.
But
Yeah, I mean, I know the parents and the students that listen to the show are so interested in how some of that played out for some people because you did end up having a successful collegiate career, but the journey to get there wasn't that easy.
no, and I actually played football at a D1 double A school,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then finished my career playing baseball at a Division II school.
Okay.
Um, so I'd say about either eighth or ninth grade is when I honed into just football and baseball.
Mhm.
Like, no more soccer, no more basketball. I play a lot of golf still, but I didn't play that as a competitive sport anymore. It was just football and baseball. And then track and weightlifting, which I didn't really do. I just took its classes, because guess who coached those two sports?
Oh,
The football and
yes.
the baseball coaches.
Oh, yes. All those high school
Oh,
days, the coaches do all the things, right?
exactly. So I grew up kind of watching College Game Day, and seeing all these linebacker. I was a linebacker and I was a catcher, so two violent positions that I love both of them. I guess I just like hitting things. I've had to learn how to stop doing that as a 34-year-old now, but anyway. Yeah, I had the dream, when North Carolina State would beat Florida State because I'm a Florida fan, on like the Thursday night game, or the Oklahoma Texas game, the Red River rivalry. God, that's hard to say.
Right.
And I have zero affiliation to either school, but I just love watching it. And sitting on my couch watching the College World Series, like taping my bats in the middle of of summer, before the night games of summer league, like that was my high school. Like I was workout, practice, and just repeat over and over again, because like I'm going to Florida, I'm going to North Carolina or Virginia or somewhere. And then, my junior year, you start getting attention. I go to a bunch of camps. I go to the perfect game camps for baseball, and I'll go to, Alabama's football camp. This was way before they were good. They were actually pretty bad when I was in high school. I played with, my high school. It was about the size of yours in Douglas. It's just massive. And we had 5,000 kids, and we had, the amount of talent our senior year, we had 18 of the 22 guys go play collegiate football.
Wow.
From on offense and defense. So like, I'm just surrounded by talents. Like I got seen a lot. But my recruiting process was just an absolute nightmare, honestly. And a lot of it was self-inflicted.
Okay.
Because I just didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could teach kids now, I mean, recruiting is so much different now because we have social media and YouTube and videos, and we didn't have any of that. Like I remember sending out my highlight reel on a VHS tape, and
right.
I'm not that old.
I hope it gets there.
Yeah, like I'm not that old. Or I mean, I guess I am, but I mean, this was 2003, 2004. So I remember, so here's the tape against Pompano Beach Ely where I had 15 tackles, and here you go, watch it. And I start getting attention from these small schools. Davidson was one, Furman was one, Elon, heck, even at Naval Academy. And then my mom was like, "You're not going to the Naval Academy." And then schools in California. And then my mom was like, "You're not going to California." And which, me too, I wouldn't have survived that far away from home. But on the baseball side, I was getting looked at by, all the schools in the South: Alabama, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia. Not so much Florida. I wanted to, but the short version of kind of what ended up happening was every school, I was kind of their second pick. I was nobody on the baseball side. I was nobody's number one, and I'd kind of shut down the football side because I'm like, I'm just going to go play baseball because that's where my future is. I got a better chance of making it to the MLB than I do the NFL, which I would tell kids now, like I made that decision way too soon, and ended up hurting myself. Because all those baseball deals, I was Georgia's number two, and guess what? They got their number one. Virginia got their number one, and it was like 2-week period. I just got crushed. I'm getting goosebumps even now thinking about it. You can tell I'm clearly not over it. But I mean, 5, 6, 7 big D1 schools that are all have been to the College World Series, and like I'm one of their guys. Every one of them passed on me. And it was completely demoralizing. I ended up going to the University of Florida, which was my only school I applied to. And I got in, and I went there as a student. And 3 weeks into it, I was standing at the Florida Tennessee football game. I'm like, screw this. I'm not a student. I'm a student athlete. And I called my high school football coach because I was just so hurt from the baseball that I hadn't picked up a ball in 4 months. So I called my high school football coach, and I'm like, we need to get back in touch with all these schools that I said no to, William and Mary, James Madison, all these small schools. And out of all of them, Furman ended up saying, yeah, come up here. And we'll take. And I remember how quick it happened. It's like high school coach calls them, they call back. I'm on a plane the next day, sign a letter of intent, transfer to January. Like that's how quick it happened. Like started training really with the Florida football team. They let me go out, a couple practices and just get back into shape. And reported to Furman University, the Purple Paladins,
Yeah.
in January of 2006.
Wow. And so, where, like, as you're thinking, I'm going to play football, I'm transferring, I'm doing all this stuff, was baseball still in the back of your mind? Like,
Always. I mean,
how could you make that work?
when I flew up to Furman, no, on my visit, we'll call it, which it wasn't a visit, it was just my dad and I flying up, like, to go meet the coach and be like, okay, this is where I'm going.
Yeah.
Because we had passed that point, like I needed to make a decision quick.
Oh, man.
The baseball coach found his way into that meeting as well, and because he obviously knew of me, or knew, I guess he recruited or sent a letter or something. And I ended up, after mat drills in February, ended up going out to a practice and just hitting BP, and coach saying, you need to join the team. I'm like, well, I came up here, to play football. I need to go through spring practice and do all that. And it's hard to play both sports in college, but what I ended up doing was playing summer baseball, as opposed to staying up there and doing football summer drills. I played summer baseball, and then when the fall football season came, I did both practices. I had football in the early mornings, and then football in the afternoons, and then baseball after that. But it ended up working out.
Right.
Where baseball was primarily on weekends.
Yeah.
And football was during, morning workouts, and then the early afternoons, and baseball was the evenings. So I just didn't have much of a life. But that's okay. I'm 34 now, and I don't have a life either. So it's kind of what I like.
Yeah. Well, the first thing that kind of pops into my mind as you're like doing all these things, because I've seen student athletes at small Division I institutions, large Division I institutions, try to manage this whole two-sport athlete. How did that affect your academics, and like how you were staying on top of all of that?
So I was one of those kids in high school that I didn't study. I just got decent grades. I mean, I got into Florida, so I guess my grades were okay.
Sure.
But when college came, and I was spending, the NCAA says you're only allowed to practice 20 hours a week.
Right.
That's completely wrong. But
right.
And
a little false information when you're watching film and doing all that stuff too. Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, because that doesn't count, because you're not on the practice field. Weight room, film room, batting cages. I mean, 168 hours in a week, I was spending 80 probably on the two fields and the weight rooms and everything. So, balance that with sleep, which I wasn't getting enough of. I was kind of doing the same thing I did in high school. I just really didn't study. And, the A's in high school turned into B's and a couple C's. So I'm like, oh, this is different. But once I got out of the elective stuff that, like, I'm sorry, not the elective, just the things that you have to take to get certain degrees. Once I got into like
courses.
my major,
yes,
the core humanities course, I just could care less about. Once I got into, business and supply chain, and, I got a minor my major was actually in political science, and my minor was business.
Yeah.
So once I got into all those classes, I got excited about studying again. So, I mean, my advice to my past self would have been, just get through the classes that you have to take. And then on the other side are the classes that you want to take. And then I loved it. I didn't have much time to, go out and hang out. It was field to library to studying to sleep. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned something previously just about, like, you also played at another school. So you transferred. Did that happen like before you graduated or after you graduated? How did that play out? Because I know that there are kids who think, what if I get in a situation where I have to look for another school?
Well, and it's going to happen. It's already happening more often. It didn't happen that often when I did it. I remember going to the athletic offices at Furman after being there for 2 years and saying, hey, I'm going to file my paperwork to transfer to go to Rollins College back in Orlando. And kind of how I got to that step is I'd had my third concussion in
Mm,
about a year and a half at Furman playing football. And knowing I'm not going to go to the NFL,
mhm.
I don't want to go to the NFL, but God, I just love the sport. I made the decision that if I'm going to try to make it as a professional athlete, it's going to be on baseball. I had played a baseball season. I had been successful, just walked on and I'm hitting number 3. So like
Right.
I was doing well. The coach and I didn't like each other, and that ended up being the reason why. Which, looking back, like yeah, he wasn't a great coach, but that was 90% my fault because
Mhm.
I was the stubborn, arrogant 21-year-old kid. That like if I just probably would have shut up a little bit more, I would have been even better.
Yeah.
And and so the process of transferring was a nightmare.
Mhm.
And actually, the NCAA took a year of eligibility away from me. Like I'm still sitting here talking to you. I have 2 years of eligibility left.
Well,
Hell,
doesn't
I'm
wait,
thinking
hold
about
on. I
going to
think it's like
play.
an age clock now. I think maybe
uh,
you're
there, there is, but I like to say that I
you
have
like to
two
say it.
years
I like it.
left.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay, so you went from Division 1 down to Division 2.
Correct.
Okay.
And when you transfer different divisions, you're supposed to not have to sit out. And the
Right.
NCAA, the NCAA said nope, you have to sit out. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what? So dealing with the NCAA was
Mhm.
awful.
Yeah.
I do not have great things to say about
Yeah.
them.
And that's where I
So
would say, like, for parents and students who are kind of going through this, especially like the initial eligibility part of it, like what core courses do you need to be in Division 1 qualifier, Division 2 qualifier, or, or if you're a student who's on campus, like your compliance office is your lifeline. Someone like myself, like for that initial eligibility piece of things, like you want to ask those questions because again, like you don't want to be in the situation that you were in and having
mhm.
like what just happened and not knowing. It's always like if we can have all of that information ahead of time, it just makes the decision making process a little easier too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the NCAA has gotten substantially better in the past decade. I mean, again, we're talking 2006,
Sure.
2009
Yeah.
from when I was in it, where nowadays you've got, compliance offices the size of my employer right
Hmm.
now,
Hmm.
where at Furman it was one person,
Right. Right.
back in the day. So I'm sure that it's come a long way. And your advice to just go, treat the compliance officer like we treated our guidance counselors in high school.
Yes.
Go to them
Yes.
for everything.
Yeah, that's 100%. And that's, we talk about that on the show too, is like knowing those people on campus, whether it's in the academic department of your athletics, your academic advisor in your college, the compliance office, the leadership that's really leading the charge for athletics. Like you want to know who those people are. And even like the deans of your department that of like what you're majoring in is so important just because then the more knowledge you have, the better decisions you can make.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even partnering with the alumni and the
Yep.
most recent alumni. I mean, guys who just graduated a year or two before, they love coming back to school. And
Yeah.
I didn't do a great job of networking and partnering and talking to them about,
Mhm.
hey, what did you do? Who did you talk to? That's huge, huge
Yeah,
lifeline now.
that's like a great tip for students, especially when they're having alumni weekends and homecoming weekends. Everybody's on back on campus. Like, take time to introduce yourself and like say, like, what's the best tip that you can give me, or what's one thing you wish you knew, because that's only going to make your experience a little better. But then also networking, like you don't know where those alumni are going to end up either, and that's a huge thing because again, you mentioned this, like all of our sports at some point in time end. I've said it time and time again on the show. Is like I'm sitting here not playing my sport, you're sitting here not playing your sport, and so we like you have to like have a career at some point, not outside of athletics. And so how did that work out for you when you were making that transition out? And because you said you didn't go forward to play in the major leagues.
Yeah. God, that's such a good question. It really didn't hit me until I was at Rollins. I had transferred. I had to sit out that year, which was crushing.
Mhm.
And even my coach at the time, I think that he knew that was the beginning of the end.
Ah,
Um, and he didn't tell me that. We ended up talking much, much later, the
mhm.
next season where I am eligible, I'm finally playing. start having some traction, do well in a couple of series and get a lot of attention from certain teams. The Pirates and San Diego Padres and the Yankees were the top three. Guys coming into town start talking to me about the next steps. And they're like, yeah, we think you're a 15th to 20th round guy. Here's the signing bonus that you would get, and here's where you potentially play. And once I saw that, that the Pirates were going to ship me to, somewhere in Missouri in the middle of nowhere and getting paid nothing, I remember looking at my coach and going like, really? And that's when it hit me that I'm like, I'm at this fantastic liberal arts school that once I get my degree, I'm going to have something that not a lot of people have. And maybe I just don't want to go. I don't know if I love baseball that much. So that, I'll say my performance didn't improve from there. And when it came time to figure out if I'm going to play summer ball or if I'm going to just graduate and, go to summer school, get my degree, hurry up and be done. Because I had, 3 or 4 classes left. I chose to just finish school. And, that's when it's like, all right, I'm not going to be a professional athlete. But by that time, I had some very good friends. I mean, one of my best friends on the planet was the SEC Player of the Year at Alabama. And I mean, you're talking about he is going to be. And another guy who had an all-star career at Clemson. So, those I started seeing how those guys' future would unfold, and that really they just got a bigger signing bonus. There's zero glamour to minor league baseball. So I accepted that. It didn't taste good. It didn't feel good. I still consider myself an athlete today and work out like that. But I had also been plagued with injuries throughout my whole career. It's why I had to stop playing football. My mindset was not one of a player that a coach, I think, would love to have on their team. As I alluded to earlier, I was kind of stuck up, arrogant, overconfident, stubborn. And as I look back, I'm super embarrassed as to the player that I used to be. And I've even reached out to these coaches and just said, hey man, like, sorry, I have kids now. I know what responsibility means. And whoa, I wish I would have been more open to feedback because I probably would have played better for you. So I mean, I had some super powerful conversations and just tried to learn from it.
You know what? I want to land there for a second because, we were talking about, I just love the phrase that you use, like open to feedback. And I think if the parents that are listening and the students that are listening could really hone in on that phrase of saying, asking your coach, or even in your recruiting visits, asking these coaches, these recruiting coordinators, just to say, like, do you have any feedback for me that I can continue to improve? And it may not even be on the field, court, mat, whatever it is. Like, they may be saying, oh, actually, in your email writing, you need to do this. As you're talking to someone, this is what it kind of needs to sound like. Or, little stuff like that is so big when it comes to being part of a team, even at the collegiate level.
Yeah, and a lot of this didn't really hit me until my late 20s, honestly. And that's when I was going back to school, I was getting my MBA. I hired an executive coach to do a 360 review on me. And once you get that feedback from people, you have a choice. You can either take it personally, which I did at first, and then about a week later, I was like, oh, these people are trying to help me, and really, I am my own worst enemy. That's when my life started changing. It was about 6 years ago. So, I would say if you're going to ask your coach for feedback, don't stop there. Ask everybody and just say, hey, how can I be a better teammate? How can I serve you better? And had I had that mindset, I'm not saying I'd be playing professional baseball right now, because I made that decision that I wanted to go into the business world as opposed to, a 20th round pick going to, Idaho to play baseball. I I don't know if my life would have been any different, but it would have been less rocky,
Ugh, yeah.
getting there. And my wife deserves a lot of credit. I've been married for almost 10 years to Leanne. And she has seen this transformation happen.
Right.
So it's just something that I wish I could have gone back and changed, but ended up figuring it out, even though it was rocky.
Yeah. And I think that's just like words of wisdom to like spin down to like the younger kids, the high school kids, college kids, because that really does help. We talked on the show a lot too, just about like leadership and being that 1% better. In a previous episode, we talked about like just making your bed. Like making your bed each day makes you 1% better. Being a better daughter, being a better, son makes you 1% better. And, that's just kind of what you're alluding to there, saying like, hey, ask for some of that feedback and really, start to become 1% better and serve those around you.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, it's
Yeah.
stop trying to compete with those around you. It's just compete with yourself.
Yeah.
And I was trying to, in high school, it's probably why all those schools passed up on me,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
um, because they probably saw something that I didn't, that I see
Mhm.
now, and why my collegiate career, didn't go the way that the fairy tale and the movies are supposed to go.
Yeah.
And how, when I hung up my cleats, quote unquote, that wasn't what I expected, because hell, I was trying to compete with everybody else except
Mhm.
myself, the
Yep.
one person that I can control, which is me. And ever since I made that decision to control myself, um, my life has exploded, for the better, both with my wife, my kids, my corporate job, CB supplements, everything has gone up. And it's like, if I would have known this when I was 18, what would have been different? Would I have ended up at Virginia or or
Oh,
or
wow.
Auburn
Yeah.
as opposed to Furman, and then Rollins, and then ended up transferring, or what? So,
Yeah.
I don't tend to go to that place very often, because everything happens for a reason.
Hmm.
And what the change that I ended up enduring when I was about 28, we'll call it. I'm just now grateful that it happened when I was 28 and not
Yeah.
48.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and I just concentrate on that.
That's so good. And I think as, students, as you're kind of going through this process, asking for this feedback, like, run your race. Like, look ahead to where you are, not looking to the sides and, truly stay in your lane. So that's really good. Charlotte, the podcast is called Confessions from the Sidelines. And I asked everybody. So I would love to hear from you. What is your favorite memory from standing on the sidelines?
If you had asked me that question a couple years ago, the answer would be different. But my answer today, is I've got, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 2-year-old.
Yep.
And we have them in every sport possible right now. T-ball, basketball, gymnastics, swimming, running. I mean, the run club at their school, like
So cool.
just everything. And just watching them,
Mhm.
especially my son, Finn, who's our 6-year-old. This is his second year in T-ball, and I want to coach him as if he's my age, and he played, collegiate level baseball, and it hits me that it's like, dude, he's 6. He has no he has no clue how to even hold the bat. Just don't even try to coach him. Just let him go do whatever he wants
Yeah.
to do and have fun. And what a humbling experience that has been, that
Mm.
like, if I try to overcoach him, and he's got some kids on his team that their dads, I'm just watching them be overcoached, and
Mhm.
they're going to end up hating the game, because their dads are trying to relive their glory years through them. Like, I'm finally seeing that happen. And I'm just like, bro, just go have fun, enjoy it. Like, I don't care if you want to swing right-handed or left-handed. I don't care what you do. I just, to be able to watch
Mm.
and see him take in all the elements. And even Vivian, our 8-year-old, she's real into swim and soccer. Just to watch her, it's like, and I picked her up at tennis the other day, and I was 10 minutes early, and I'm like, this is, I mean, she has no clue what she's doing. She's doing it completely wrong. And there's something beautiful
Yeah.
about that. And just watching it and just being there on the sidelines. It's like, girl, I'm so happy for you. And like, I just hope you had a good time. Like,
Yes.
so I'm sure my attitude will change as they go into their teen years and get more competitive. But
Yeah.
my hope for myself in the future is if we could just keep that attitude, and, just celebrate the fact that we even get to play sports.
Yeah.
It'd probably be better than the opposite.
Ah, that's like, and just seeing the joy on their faces when like they're just so excited about something is amazing.
If we can learn something from kids and get that excited about everything that we do, my goodness, how the world would change
Yes.
overnight.
The joy would just be exploding 10 times. Like it would be amazing. Well, Charlie, where can everybody find you if they want to connect with you? They all know if they want to connect with CB Supplements, that cbsupplements.com is where they go. But if they want to connect with you, where can they find you?
So I mean, going to cbsupplements.com and you click the little icon that says contact us, and it's our support email. Guess who answers that email?
Yeah. Yeah.
Me. I mean, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn, or you can. I mean, I have a website. It's just my name, charliebales.com. We're working on that with one of my partners to just try to develop, another way to just try to give the world, give the audience that wants to listen as much as I can, just to try to help.
Yeah.
So check out that website, and I'm happy to talk to anybody.
Perfect. And we'll be able to link all of those website links, the CB supplements links, all of that will be in the show notes. So if you guys want to connect with Charlie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Sarah. I appreciate it.